Hello and welcome to the OTB channel. Today something a little bit different. I'm going to do a little mini review of MX Linux 18.3, which seems to be riding high in the distro watch rankings at the moment. I've never tried it, but I used to use Mepis Linux many years ago, and it was an excellent distro. So I thought, well, why not give it a spin to see what happens? For those of you who watch this channel and are subscribed, I'm trying a little experiment today. Rather than using my C920 webcam, I've actually bought a Canon Legria HFR 606, and I'm using this little device, a Camlink, an Elgato Camlink, to see if I can use the camcorder as a webcam. It seems to work fine in Linux and in OBS. I'm not actually sure of the quality, but we'll see how this video goes, and I may well switch back to using the C920 after this. But anyway, let's give MX Linux a spin. Let's fire up VirtualBox and see what we think. So let's see what MX Linux is all about. As you can see on the screen, I've fired up VirtualBox. I've created a 32 gig virtual hard drive. I've given it 8 gig of my 16 gig of memory and 2 threads from my i5 processor. And we've hooked up the ISO file 18.3 MX Linux ISO. So let's hit start and see what happens. Okay, nice grub string to start off with. Let's just hit enter. I'm a big believer that in 2019, when firing up machines in VirtualBox, we just go with the defaults. Most Linux distros should now be able to cope with VirtualBox without a problem. And we've got the black screen, but I'm hoping something's going on in the background, and the system is setting itself up, and indeed that's exactly what seems to be happening right now. Right, okay, doesn't look like the guest additions are installed, but let's just do scale mode on this, or full screen mode, should we say? Why not full screen mode? Let's try scale mode then. There we go. Okay, it's not looking brilliant, but it's not bad. Let's see if we've got some better options. If we go into settings and see if we can actually set up the display. Oh, it's only set to 800 by 600, so let's pick something appropriate. How about 1680 by 1050? That looks better. Okay, all good. Right, so quite a nice looking desktop. Conky there. Personally, I'm not a fan of Conky, but if it's your thing, well, it's there and it's ready to go. The installer's very obviously on the desktop. Straightforward log out button there that gives you your options of log out, restart, or shut down, or even suspend. And Firefox is already on the panel. The file manager. Okay, great. What is that? Let's have a quick look. It's Thunar. Okay, that's a great file manager. What's here? Oh, update manager. Our Ethernet connection. Sound. Computer. What does that do? I've no idea. Ah, right. It's pointing to our ISO file. And then we have our menu there. Okay. It's looking good. It's a little bit plain, the wallpaper, for my tastes. I think I'd liven it up a little bit, but I believe this is based off plain Debian. So let's get on and let's install and see how quick that takes. Yeah, MX Linux is an independent distribution based on Debian. Excellent. Keyboard settings. Right, we are going to need to change them because at the moment it's based on US. We want UK. So let's scroll all the way down. There we are. English UK, variant. Just want the standard English UK. I don't know what Colmac is. Let's just put English UK with extended win keys. And let's apply to that. Seems to be taking a little while to add that keyboard, but let's see what happens. Okay. I think we need to move that up one. So that becomes our default. I'm not quite sure why it's taking a while to save this. Maybe I shouldn't have started messing about with keyboards when I'm only looking at doing the installation. But this is fine. We'll let it do its thing. Click OK and go on to next. What do we want to use? Yes, there's the hard disk. Rearrange disk partitions optional. Well, if it's optional, we won't bother. Auto install using entire disk. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that and let's click next. Do we want to do that? Format and use the entire disk? Yeah, absolutely. Installation in progress. What do we want to use? Location to install on, MBR or PBR? I have no idea what PBR is. Does it actually tell us in here? Can't see it. But anyway, it's set to MBR, so let's just hit next. Computer name MX, computer domain example.com.dom. Okay, whatever. And work group is work group. Fine, next. I quite like the fact that as you're running through the dialogues, it's getting on with the installation. That's quite neat. Locale, well, we need to set United Kingdom. Time zone, we need to find Europe down here. We'll get there eventually. There's a lot of American and Asian time zones, as you can see. But we'll get down to Europe. There we are. Europe, London. System clock uses local. Yeah. Right, default username. So let's just set OTB. Default password. And again. Root password. I'm pleased to see that we're actually setting up a root account by default. I'm wondering whether or not sudo is also installed by default, but we'll find that out. Okay, that would seem to be it. And installation is doing its thing. We will come back once it's finished. So that was very quick, just 3 or 4 minutes to be honest. And we've got to this screen that's asking us to hit finish, and the system will automatically reboot when the installer is closed. Okay, well let's hit finish and see what happens. Woo! Big text now. Please remove disk, close tray. Right. Okay. And it's booted very quickly into a standard grub screen. Actually, looking at it, I thought it was a bit plain before, but actually I like the boot splash. And wow, that was fast. From a standing start to the login manager in seconds, really. So let's just log in and see what the live system looks like. Okay, we're going to have to do something about the resolution here. So let's go into settings and let's go to, you can see we've got lots of updates there, but please get out of the way so that I can actually set the display. It's gone back to 800 by 600, so there we go. 1650 by 1080. And there's our desktop, which is looking quite nice. I quite like the start screens that many of the modern distros are including now. They're great for new users, with a link to the forums, an FAQ. Let's see what that brings up. It's launching Firefox and taking us straight, by the looks of it, to the MX website. Can I use PPAs? No, is the answer. This is Debian, not Ubuntu. Okay. Let's just close the tabs here. User manual. Oh, nice. A full user manual with everything you need to know. That's great. It's good to see resources like this. A wiki. I see some of this is from Antics. I believe MX has its roots in Mepis and Antics. Back in the day, many years ago, I installed Mepis on many people's machines, including a couple of my sons, and I did so because it was one of the few distributions around at the time. I mean, we're talking 2006, 2007, that seemed to boot on just about any hardware and to run, you know, fairly well. And I also remember that wireless was a big problem in those days, but Mepis seemed to cope really well with Wi-Fi. It had a great deal of drivers bundled into the ISO by default. So we have MX tools here. So we've got boot options, boot repair. That's nice in case your grub gets messed up. A menu editor, a user manager, an NVIDIA driver installer. Neat. There, I suppose you can control your Conky. My Conky dataset has been updated. Okay. Oh, right, a little manager. Very neat. Network assistant, sound, system sounds, tweak. Ah, that's nice. Display panel vertically, left or right. Do you know, I'm really sorry about this MX, but I like mine on the top. Much better. Much better for what I want, although it seems to... oh no, that works. That works. Choose a theme set. Let's go for MX Dark. Oh, nice. Compositor. Let's use the XFCE compositor. Okay. Config options. Okay, I like that. Nice and simple. The welcome screen, which we're at the moment. System keyboard. Generic 105 key. Okay, fine. Forward. Keep the current keyboard configuration. Yeah, I think we will. Okay, I'm just going to cancel that. What else have we got here? System locales, GPG keys, the package installer, the repo manager. We've got to have a look at this. Oh, right, I see MX repos. So it has its own repo. It also has the Debian repo, which is currently pointing to stretch. It'd be good to see a new version pointing to Debian 10. And any individual sources, the Antics ones, the Debian stable updates. We've got an Opera one there. Okay, great. Quick system info. Okay, that's quite neat. And iDevice mounter, what's that? If your device is not found, make sure it's unlocked. Oh, so it's just a little mount utility. It's very nice. What about codecs? I'm not going to do this, but it looks like that is a tool that's going to allow us to install restricted codecs so that we can play our MP3s, etc., etc. Popular apps. Grayed out items have already been installed. Okay. Right, okay, so this is like its own little synaptic, if you like. I'm noticing the other tab there actually points to Debian backports, which is very useful. Okay, I'm going to close that. So I do like this. I do like the dialogue. I don't want it to show on startup once the initial boot has started, but I'm sure for new users it's absolutely invaluable. The menu itself, can we configure this by right-clicking? Properties. Yeah, it's the whisker menu. Okay, so it's a nicely configured XFCE desktop, and from the look of it, it's got quite a few programs installed by default. Even a few games there. Mahjong. It's got the GIMP, LibreOffice Draw, Firefox by default, and Thunderbird, and HexChat, if you like a little bit of IRC chat. On multimedia, Clementine's there. GUV CView, which is an underrated application for managing your webcam for those that use video to Linux drivers. Pulse audio volume control, SM Tube. Okay, I'm not familiar with that, but XF Burn, and of course VLC player. So that's nice. Oh, under internet we see we've got transmission there. An Office. Okay, great. The whole of LibreOffice is installed. Really? ADSL PPP OE configuration. Do we really need that these days? Fine. If we do or we don't, it doesn't really matter. It's there if you need it. Adobe Flash Player. It's not something I install anymore, but it's there should you need it. Set desktop background. Okay, what wallpapers have we got here? Let's have a little look. Oh. Oh, there's some nice looking wallpapers here actually. I think we're going to stick with that. Yeah. What else is in this settings menu? Your file manager, which we already know is Thunar. You have a firewall already installed. Let's have a look and see what that is. Right, it's GUFW by the looks of it. Okay. And Anything else? Keyboard layouts, light I'll say this again, light DM settings, so you can set your greeter. Sound menu, MX tweak, we had a look at that. Open JDK, customize the panel. Let's see what that brings up. So we've got our panel up there. Appearance, style. Okay, it allows us to add a background image by the look of it. There we are, semi-transparent. I quite like the look of that. And yeah, I can understand why people install this. I think Ubuntu have made a big mistake defaulting to GNOME 3. GNOME 3 does not immediately strike you as user-friendly, but this does. XFCE has always been a great desktop environment. I've often defaulted to it. I remember I tried to put up with GNOME 3 when it replaced GNOME 2, and I'm afraid I lived with it for 3 or 4 months and that was it. And I went over to XFCE eventually and stayed with it for a few years until I jumped onto Mate. But it's a nice desktop environment, this. It looks friendly enough. It has a great welcome screen. Does it deserve to be at the top of the distro watch rankings for what they count anyway? Well, I can understand why people use it. It seems to be user-friendly. It boots incredibly fast. Is sudo actually enabled? I don't know. Right, I just tried to do hold Control-T and it didn't immediately bring up the terminal. So let's just find the terminal actually. Terminal emulator, XFCE terminal, that'll be it. So if we do sudo apt update password, yeah, sudo does seem to be enabled by default. So that's a quick look over MX Linux. I can see why people like it. It has many of the tools that give it a look of what Mepish used to be about. I do think it looks a little bit old school to my mind, and it's obviously using quite an old Debian base now that the new Debian 10 is out, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's certainly going to be stable, and it's the first time I've given it a spin. If I was to stay in it for a while, I would obviously do a lot more customizing to get the look of it exactly as I would want it. But apart from the look, you can't really go wrong with a Debian base, and it seems to have some user-friendly tools for people who are new to Linux, and that's only a good thing. So let's call this a day and have a quick chat. And that's MX Linux. To me, it seems like a great distro, probably well suited for beginners. Would I use it? Probably not. I'd probably stick with Debian, plain Debian, but I'm at a stage where I perhaps don't need the same number of configuration options and easy tools. That said, there's nothing wrong with it. It seems to work well. XFCE is a great desktop environment, and I can understand why it's climbed up quite high in the distro watch rankings. But as I said, we have to be careful about that, because that's not necessarily an indicator of absolute popularity. Today's review was actually done a little bit on the hoof. I did intend to review PC Linux OS, the Trinity version. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it fired up properly in VirtualBox. I finally got it booted, but I couldn't log in, which was a real shame. So hopefully the developers are going to fix that and we can come back to that on another occasion. But for now, everybody, oh, and you'll see that the pork pie hat has come back for today. For now, everybody, stay well, and I'll catch you on the next video. Hope you enjoy this.